Hey y'all, this is Christos. Back again for the next video. This covering from about 1979, 1980, taking place in Bath, Maine. This is probably going to be broken up in a couple of parts because there's quite a few things that I remember about this house. And I guess that these videos can start getting a little bit longer, but we'll see. I'll see what I want to do. So, Bath, Maine, 1979. A woman named Sharon, who lived across the street from my grandmother in Old Orchard, had four kids. Had a woman named Stacy. I guess she wasn't a woman. She was in high school at the time. Had a woman named Robin who had muscular dystrophy, I think. No, I'm not really sure. She was older. I think she was an adult, but she was disabled, so she did live on her own at that time. And then two sons who were twins, and they were Chad and Will, and they lived about they were about 3 years 3 years older than me, and 2 years younger than my brother. So my mother was still having a hard time. I guess that we were only in that farmhouse for a certain amount of time because it was furnished. So we were invited. I guess that Sharon had moved to Bath to move in with a boyfriend, and that boyfriend fucked off and disappeared. So she was left in this house, and I guess that there must have been a bunch of bedrooms. I do remember my brother and I sharing a room, but my mom must have had her own room. And I don't remember what the sleeping arrangements were for the other kids, but so this house was on Bridge Street in Bath, and it was right next to part of where the river comes out of the Kennebec and kind of goes into a marshy lake type area called Whiskeg, I think. So it was an interesting location. It being Bath was a pretty small, it's a small town. But there really weren't, it wasn't a neighborhood because it was on the main route to get to Popham State Park. So it was, in the summer, it was a pretty heavy traffic road. But there was also nearby, there was a cool little rope swing in the river or pond or whatever it was. All in all, there was also a little corner store that was right up the street. think it was due to that corner store. I think this might have been around the time that I like smoked a cigarette for the first time or took a couple of drags for the first time. You know, times were different back then. I mean, you know, watch The Outsiders. So moving into this house, there's a bunch of like smaller things that I recall about this place. We didn't get along with the kids super well. It was just a mess. It was there were too many people and too small of a space. But what I do remember is that was the first time that I heard Black Sabbath. Stacy had a Black Sabbath record, and I would stare at the cover with all the demons and everything. Like, I would stare at that cover for what felt like hours and just listen to that record, and it was so weird and surreal. I think like the only other record that I had available to me at the time, which might have just been my mom's, but was Christopher Cross, Sailing, and it was a difference. It was a huge difference, of course. So that Black Sabbath record probably dictated quite a few things in my life in the coming years. Again, I mentioned there was a rope swing right across the street, down a little path through the woods. We would spend like hours and hours and hours there. That was some of the few times that like all of the kids got along. I'm assuming that my brother Guy must have taught me how to swim sometime around here. I don't really recall it, but I do recall being scared of the water. But I also recall using the rope swing and jumping in and being okay. So I must have learned how to swim at that moment. One of those trips to the rope swing, I had sandals or flip-flops on, and I stepped on a rusty nail through a plank of wood that was on the ground. The nail went right through my foot, and had to be rushed to the hospital, getting a tetanus shot. And because there was just as much like rust color as there was blood when I pulled my foot off of it. So that was my first set of stitches, of which I'd get more in similarly stupid circumstances. Also nearby was there was a bit of a hill, and the hill ended like right in the street. But people still sled down the hill and would actually make jumps so that we'd get in the street. And typically like there would be like one kid who would stand in the street and be the lookout for cars, and then everybody else would sled down the hill, and then it would just rotate. And one day we were sledding after a big snowstorm, and we were doing just that, and somebody pulled over from the local newspaper and took some pictures of us sledding because it was fairly dangerous, I guess, and why not? And we were all in the newspaper the following day, and it was right on the front page. Chad and Will were in the foreground, and I was in the background, walking up the hill but looking towards them, and my brother was uphill a little bit further, I think. And I mean, we thought we were famous. We were so excited about that. We just thought we were the shit, and it was great. And unfortunately, I don't have any copies of that. And, every once in a while, I've thought about, going to see if there are any archives, but it was so long ago, and the newspaper has been bought and sold over and over and over again. So who knows? But I felt so cool. Like I would tell like all of the kids at school, I wasn't really popular. Like, we had just moved here and nobody really knew me. And I mean, it was only second grade, but or either first and second, I forget how it worked. But I just thought that made me so cool. And I kept a copy of that newspaper clipping pretty close to me for quite a few years. It made me feel pretty cool. And then the last thing of note, which I'll be talking more about in a little bit, was my mom started dating again for the first time in my life. And she started dating a man named Tim. And that man would soon move in with us. And we would stay in Bath, but we would move to a housing project that was a little bit more located centrally in the town. And Chad and Will and their family would move not with us, but into the same housing project just a few doors down from us. And I think that we would stay in that housing project for like maybe 4 or 5 years. So we stayed there for quite a bit. And that takes up a pretty big chunk of my adolescence. It takes up, I think, from 3rd grade to 6th grade or thereabouts, and a whole lot of stuff. So I am going to call it quits on this video. I hope I didn't rush through that too much, but I don't have deep memories of a lot of this stuff. I just got like fleeting because I was pretty young. So but there we go. Jasmine, Jack, Silas, I love you guys. To anyone else watching, congratulations. You've just wasted a whole lot more time listening to me blather on about my childhood. So thank you, and I will complete, I will not complete, I will continue the story more in the next video. Coming up at Northwood Court in Bath, starting in 1980. Be back soon.